Well, I'm fuzzy about.
Okay. Thank you everyone for attending. So this scrutiny meeting is being conducted on a hybrid basis in accordance with the Local Government and Elections Wales Act 2021, which will operate alongside the Council Standing Orders. Council Standing Orders and Code of Conduct will apply at all times during this virtual meeting in the same way as ordinary meetings, and members should conduct themselves accordingly. I remind members this meeting is being live streamed to the public. Please can note attending, switch off your cameras and mute your microphones when you're not speaking to ensure there is no unnecessary background noise. Can I also remind members to ensure the chat function is switched on and to use that facility to indicate to me when they wish to speak on a particular item. Please do not speak until I invite you to do so, and remember to unmute your microphone and switch your camera on. A recorded version of this meeting will be uploaded for public viewing as soon as possible after the meeting. Welsh translation of the proceedings can be provided upon request. The images and sound recording may be used for training purposes within the council. Memorise that simple. Welcome to the officers. Any apologies for today, Sam?
Yes, Chair. Okay, says we can kindly.
Okay. Any other apologies that you should be aware of? Okay, thanks. Any declarations of interest from members at this stage?
No, Chair.
Done?
No, Chair.
Thank you. So we are discussing the customer contact improvement project, and we've actually got an officer presentation, which is unusual for Scrutiny, but Reece, Mary and I met sort of last week and discussed actually because we're presenting a sort of external consultants report. It'd be useful to sort of get a bit of an overview of that in sort of in visual form, and then I've asked members to sort of keep questions to after the presentation, if that's okay. So over to you guys. I don't know if you want to say anything first, Reece.
Yeah, I'm gonna start off, if you don't mind.
Of course.
So obviously directions, I think everybody knows me, we call the Director of Corporate Services. Kayfa is the Customer Services Service Manager. Bradley Edwards, who's Project Manager. Press. That's the team. So we'll work through this together. I'm going to do a bit of an intro. We'll work through the presentation, and just to say to the committee, we don't normally do a presentation, but this presentation is essentially what's been said today. So we just talk about some of those key points. There's just a couple of things just to lay the foundations. We've entered into this piece of work in really the spirit of trying to improve the services that we deliver to both the residents people and to elected members, because actually, in lots of ways, both those people are customers of the services that we provide, and I would say, whilst the vast majority of the customer interactions we have as an organisation are generally positive for people, obviously we have got some deficiencies and some areas we're doing as well. So we just hit those head on, right? So we've been this is hiding some of those things. There's a huge amount of customer interaction across the organisation. What we looked at as part of this piece of work over a 6-month period of time was around about 250,000 contacts from customers. So if you think, given the population we've got 160,000, that's quite a lot in a fairly short period of time. So there's a lot of correspondence, questions, service requests that come in. In fact, as I said, the vast majority of them dealt with efficiently effectively, but we've clearly picked up some areas for improvement, both in that sort of frontline contact, but also in systems processes that we've got behind. So we're going to talk a little bit about some of that stuff and some of the findings, and then really try to concentrate on, well, this is what we're going to do about some of this stuff and how we're going to tackle it. I'm really interested in the committee's input into making that a better process and making sure that organisations really keep on top of that. So that's all I want to say to start off, and I'll Kerry and Brian, you think, to go through the presentation.
Yeah, thanks, Reece.
Thanks, Reece. Thanks. Next slide. Yeah, I just run through what we plan to give you an update on. So a little bit of background. We'll be talking about the customer contact review, exploring and giving some information about the findings and the level of demand that Newport City Council is in terms of customer contact. We look at some of the recommendations that the report brought to light, and we'll give you an update on actions to date and information around the customer contact improvement project, information around the phases, delivery and governance, and then next steps and timescales. So, over to Kerry.
Thanks. On the next one.
On the next slide.
Do you want the background?
Yeah.
Or do you want the next one? Excellent. Next one, please, Taylor.
Oh, sorry, background. Apologies.
Go
My
back.
first day in.
That's all right.
I'm not. So, as you know, we did a tender for some consultants to look in, and Basis was successful in that. And they took the review across the council, excluding customer services. And the review was aimed to examine the customer contact journey due to inconsistencies in customer contact across the council. So this isn't just the customer services department, this is the whole of the authority. The report summarises the work completed by Basis, their findings and recommendations to the council, and the actions that will be undertaken for the next stages and future plans for the next 18 months. Next slide.
Okay.
So they started their review towards the end of 2023 and concluded in April 24. They reviewed the 6 customer access points, such as website, social media, elected members, face-to-face, telephone and email contact. So again, the review was focused on the experience and included listening to customer interactions and interviews with customers to gain insights. They also spent time in Central Library looking at face-to-face interactions as well. Throughout the review, the focus was on the customer experience and requirements. And as noted above, they listened in, they took part in customer interactions, as well as specific interviews with customers to get their view on the quality of experience and to gain insights to what they felt was important to them. So again, the finding summary, it just details the multiple ways that customers can access help. It summarizes the strengths and weaknesses of each element. So again, counsellors, websites, online services, access and contact centre, communications with services, service area responses and updates, and they followed the processes through. So the finding summaries, they looked at the number of customer contact requests that came through different channels in the period May to October, which totaled over 247,000. Phone calls make up 41% of the demand entering the council. The services, generic service email accounts, are the third largest route for demand at 23%. And that's 5 times the email volume received by customer servicing.
Can I just interject there and just for clarity? So obviously we've got a customer services team, staffs the contact centre, reception, central line. That's the differential between the numbers of emails that come to that customer services and those emails that go directly to service emails.
Yeah, so when customers click on contact us on the website, that comes through to customer services. But I think they counted somewhere around 52 generic emails on the website. So that's traffic that goes direct to the service area. As we know, demands on yourselves are increasing, but current process is confusing. There are too many ways for you to raise queries, which increases your workload and officer workload. And some members are creating their own systems to track their requests. So again, it adds to extra work and stress to all involved. And some customers said that the online forms are clunky, hard to navigate. Some services have limited contact with residents due to capacity issues, delays, or lack of impact, lack of access. and updates. So on that one, we then looked at levels of demand. So, for
I think you
example,
missed this.
have I missed it?
Yeah.
Okay, so the review identified multiple ways customers access help
Next slide.
and summarise the strengths and weaknesses of each element. So customer experience, most transactional process were described as straightforward and simple. I think we've mentioned before that of all of the online services that we have, just over 80% of those are done by self-service, which is really positive. And they're positive about process such as checking on what data bins are collected. However, long wait time and calls being disconnected were highlighted as part of an issue with customer experience. The MCS system, My Newport app, was highlighted for its potential benefits. Interviewees commented positively on its capabilities, although only 26% of services are integrated with MCS. Contact centre. The contact centre is operating reasonably well within the context of resource limits. It has well-trained staff with good level of knowledge and processes to escalate calls to those with more experience. There is a good training programme in place for customer services staff, which includes doing scenarios for every service area. Newport City Council would benefit from adopting a customer contact charter and strategy. Face-to-face services, they're accessible for digitally excluded residents or for those with English as a second language. And I think we mentioned last time in Scrutiny about those people that still have trouble accessing digital services, that we don't leave them behind.
Exactly.
So level of demand. So online MCS self-service got 74,191 form completions in 6 months. And that equates to about 30% of demand entering the council. So that's something that we're keen to carry on looking at and improving. Phone calls.
Sorry, and then just to interject again, just so you can pick up. So 80% of the services can be done. You said
Yeah.
this one, but only 30% of the traffic is covered.
So of the services actually online, 80% of that traffic is done by customers themselves, which is quite a lot. So I think what we want to look at is looking at those areas that don't have so much present on the website presence, and increasing that as well. So that they have more services that they can interact with 24/7 when it suits our residents. So the phone, over 100,000 calls received in 6 months, May to October, and 66,000, just over 621 calls were answered in those 6 months. 41% of the demand entering the council is by phone. So emails as well, we talked about contact us emails that come in. So 11,000, just over 11,000 emails in 6 months. And that's about 4% of demand entering the council. And then direct to service generic emails, that was just over 57,000. And that equated to 23% of demand entering the council. But with those, they don't get entered onto MCS. We're not quite sure what happens to those when they go direct to service
Can I
areas.
just interject there as well? So measuring that 23% of demand isn't captured or recorded anyway currently.
And then face-to-face, that has struggled slightly since the pandemic, and we've seen a lot more people move to online services or telephone, although in recent months we have seen it start to increase again. So we've got just under 4,000 face-to-face approaches in 6 months, which equates to just 2% of demand entering the council. So where customers are interacting has changed since COVID, and we are seeing a lot more, I think probably more complex queries come through to us now.
Something else, you could say that as well.
And I think, no, I think it's true, and I think we have a lot of success online because they're the simple transactions, so they want to miss bin collection or order a new bin or something simple. But what we're seeing coming through either face to face or on the telephone is a lot more complex.
Oh, really?
So the recommendations that have come back is that we clearly set out expectations for staff engagement with customers by agreeing on a council-wide framework and approach. Customer services should lead on improving customer experience and have the authority to make those decisions that will help with efficiencies and customer interaction across the authority. Increase the skills and expertise in customer services. Minimise generic email accounts as a method of engaging with customers. Commit to self-service MCS becoming the main two-way communication route between the council and customers, so that we capture as much traffic as we can. Make service requests using a registered My account the default choice for customers. At the moment, lots of customers, residents can go on as a guest, which means they're kind of anonymous. So when you're trying to chase something back, it's quite difficult. But you find that if they're going on and they want something to do with council tax, then they have to give us their address details, etc. So looking at those that we can move to, you need to create an account rather than just be anonymous. Clarify the role and scope of each main customer access route. Prioritise updates and managing customer expectations across the council, and prioritise accessibility and accountability when officers need to speak with residents directly. So far, the project deliveries, we agreed that they are to increase and improve customer focus across Newport City Council, improve public and members' perception and increase customer trust when contacting the council, and provide visibility of customer contact points through improved recording and reporting of customer communications. And the objectives are to create a customer contact charter, minimise avoidable contact. So that means if we do something up front that we think about, that is probably a bit more strategic than just giving a simple answer. It means that residents don't need to call back time and time again. They get the answers up front. And development of My Council services with back office functions. So again, that will increase the communication between front office and back office. So the customer contact improvement. Have I missed one again?
No, I was just going to say, do you want me to do the fifth?
Yeah, go on.
Okay. So just coming into the customer contact improvement project and looking at different phases. So funding obviously was approved by Cabinet for the project delivery costs, which include some limited resource to bring that basis limited to support the project mobilisation and in the initial implementation phase. And obviously Kerry will provide the sort of senior manager oversight with support for myself and the head of finance will also be in terms of providing oversight input. So the project will be executed in two phases. The first will be around preparation and planning, so involving the development of the customer contact charter and the mobilisation of the core project team. We've established the governance arrangements, which I'll talk about in the next slide or so. And this phase will involve heavy engagement with managers and members and communication to priority service areas and the decision-making processes that are involved. And then phase two will be around the execution and transition of the project. So we will deliver targeted customer contact workshops and implementation of different changes or recommendations, those that have come from the basis report, and including any officer insights when we go into the service areas. So the project aims to work systematically through each service area throughout the council. So the next slide. So in terms of the delivery, as I've mentioned, one of the early deliverables will be to set out the customer contact charter, which will provide the framework to set out standards and expectations. And afterwards, the project will be developing sort of bespoke service area reviews and delivering workshops with officers. We aim to, within the workshops, incorporate findings and recommendations from the basis report. As I said, identify any further issues and impart key messages from the customer contact charter to help embed that throughout the organisation. And then ultimately improve customer access through identifying and making changes to various processes and procedures. And finally, agree customer contact service area performance measures to obviously for head service and service managers to monitor our performance in relation to customer contact. So in terms of governance, CMT will be providing an oversight and will deal with cost-cutting issues as well as any other issues that may arise. And this will also help foster ownership and provide support if there are any issues that require unblocking. In terms of the service area project team, this group will be a task and finish group and will be established as the core team move from one service area to another. The local team will help ensure that there's expertise, specific knowledge, and encourage buy-in. The project board will be led by Reese, the Director of Corporate Services, and members also include the Head of Finance, Customer Services Manager, Head of Infrastructure, Head of Law and Standards, and the Head of Adult Services.
Just to say on that, I think that all of that bit's really important because the chief executive has clearly made the points to the corporate management team that this is like organisational priority, probably number 1A behind making sure we've got a balanced budget for next year. So I will chair the project board, but corporate management team, this will be on the agenda for everything too. But that's all the heads of service and directors will be chaired by the chief executive. So this is something that is going to to organisational.
Thank you. Okay, so the next steps and timescales. Obviously, the committee is asked to review the council's implementation plan and comment on its adequacy and robustness, and determine whether to receive regular updates from the service area to track progress on improvements. It's recommended that you receive an update on progress every 6 months. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Anything else to add, or do you want me to go through the questions?
Look, I suppose just some general comments from me, just picking up some of those key themes. There's some pretty good stuff that happens, but it's not systematic across all the service areas. So I think that's what show us. The really works really well, but that's not, it's not enough areas with enough consistency. We obviously, I think the focus whenever we talk about customer services, when we through performance reporting, through scrutiny, is around call times on the customer services desk. The only way we're going to improve that, because we haven't got a load of resources to get through it, but the only way we're going to improve that is get those people, and I think I said this in a meeting the other week, get those people who can access services by the web, and to be able to do that. And we have to do that by making that much better. There's a lot of stuff that keeps coming back through phone calls and emails up because some of that stuff doesn't work as well as it should be. You end up with repeats business and actually expectations. So like there's some really important stuff in there. We're not crazy, but we do. I'd say generally it's a pretty good job. However, it's not consistent. we're happy to take questions and comments on that. Talk about how we're going to do this with you.
Yeah, fantastic. Hey, anybody want to start with some questions?
Yeah.
Oh, the other thing. Don't forget to raise your hand online if you want to speak.
Oh, sorry, Chair.
Matthew, do you want to go first?
Yeah, just with the history of this, why was it agreed to do a report, an investigation project in the first place? Was it based on the complaints or failures in the system? The reasoning behind why you undertook this?
Short answer is yes. We all became more aware. I think it became probably a bit more obvious post-pandemic that, sort of the step was right. We've had a big push for online, even more and more step one coordination. We've seen where some of the deficiencies are within that. Members have raised concerns with us around some of that as well. We've done what we can do, but the decision was taken just for pace and actually clarity, because when you're in it, it's quite hard to see some of these issues. So for pace and clarity, we decided to go out to the market to get a local, pretty local business in to do this. We've done it in a local authority, particularly not.
So just to check, because I don't met Kerry or Friday before, neither of you were from business.
No, sorry, it should be really, really clear. Both NCC members and staff. Bridie's a reasonably new project manager within the team. This is probably the second or third project you picked up. Obviously, Kerry's been here for a long time in customer services. So,
whilst not here to scrutinise basis, would any NCC members of staff involved with the collecting of the information, the monitoring?
Yeah.
They obviously we provided them with a lot of data for them to look at. The most popular SOTs that we get through and everything else. They looked at the website. We did some workshops with them, and we did some workshops with some of the back offices as well with them, where they were able to make some changes right away. They did a really good method of show and tell with us. So again, there was a core team from within the council that met with them regularly, and they would be doing some work in the background, and then they would bring it to a meeting with us and say, we've done this is what we've achieved, or this is an issue that we found. And that was the way that we worked throughout the consultation with them. And obviously when they did their report and we went through it, and again there were more discussions, but they were a really good firm to work with. I've not done that kind of consultancy before, where they do a lot of show and tell, and they were really flexible, really good. They've worked with a lot of London councils, and they've had some really good success, especially in the housing area as well. So yeah, they were good to work with.
Okay, final.
Yeah,
One question before. Have any of you personally experienced during this project the services yourselves? So have you been into the library? Have you phoned up personally to see what your own experiences have been with it? I know that you've recruited a company to do it for you, but yourselves, have you actually ran the call centre, maybe during lunch times? Have you been to the library to experience any our services, what they're like?
Well, I'll start with that. So obviously we don't just deliver customer services in the library, we do deliver across the place. So, I'm here pretty much every day. So I see it every day here because we have customers, and occasionally have to go to go and see them. So Kerry works in
The library.
Central Library, so sees that every day. So we're well aware of what's going on, how it's going on. And I would also say I've had lots of conversations with members about things when it doesn't go well. So I suppose, picking apart, we haven't just brought them in and they've told us all this stuff. We've just taken.
Oh no, but I'm just wondering in terms of
We
pay this consultancy company to come up with these results. I'm just wondering if you've experienced any of the services yourself from staff. So I know as councillors that we have, so I've often rang the call centre trying to get hold of somebody, and again, it's a generic number unless you're lucky enough that an officer will give you a direct number, which doesn't happen very often. And then likewise, I visited the library a few times with residents, because they're not sure where to go or what to do. So yeah, I'd say most of us have got first-hand experience of doing it. It would just be interesting to know if the members of staff at NCC have been through the whole process themselves, just to see what it's like from the residents' point of view.
I think the short answer is yes, but I'd also like to think that, because I think the methodology was used to do this is really important. So they didn't come in and do this to us. They came in and worked with the team really, really closely. It wasn't just customer services. They all went from across the organisation to actually learn together about what was going right, what was going wrong.
Councillor Screen.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just two questions. First of all, the standards that you are working to or want to work to, are they industry standards? Contact centres are well established now, or are there council standards that you are operating towards? And secondly, you mentioned demands on councillors increasing due to multiple ways of accessing information. And I think that's a problem we got as councillors, trying to persuade people to use the My Newport app. We still get a lot of direct contact, mainly by email, from residents. Once they get to know you at a ward surgery or whatever, they tend to contact you direct. So do we know what the take-up is of people using the app? And secondly, is there any way we can actually advertise that again to people, to residents, as the preferred method of contacting? Okay, thanks.
If it's okay, I'll
Yeah.
do the last one first,
Okay.
and then you can do the other. I suppose the other two questions, which were about standards. The benefits with My Council Services are not just about the fact that it's an app, but I wouldn't say that this wrong now, Gary. It's if that information about the query and where we are with responding to that query is in My Council Services, at any point that person then wants to know where they are, or they speak to somebody else, we can instantly find out, right? So it's all logged in there. So whether that's somebody contacted you and then that's logging out of My Council Services, or them doing it themselves, you can keep track of it. It's really good at being able to offset that kind of repeat call. Somebody doesn't know where they are with it. Actually, we've got that logged in the system. I think where some of the deficiencies came out we're not brilliant in some instances. So somebody will put in a request for service that has been dealt with, but because there's nothing in there that goes back to that person to say this is where you are with it, they basically end up phoning again or email again. So that there's some stuff in it. I think as a result of this work, Councillor Screen, we will have a much bigger plan about what advertising to My Council Services and actually improving the way it works as well. Because some of the feedback was some of the ways some of the forms are clunky, the interfaces are not always brilliant. So there's a big piece of work around that. But I'll go back. The reason I wanted to say this, I'll go back to what I said earlier on. The more services that can be accessed by that, the more people that use that, the more capacity is on the telephone lines and in face-to-face centres to deal with more complex stuff that people are coming up with. So that it's in everybody's interest to get that bit right.
Yeah, and to add to that, where we've been doing the website redesign, the manager of our operational team who looks after MCS, they've been working to make sure that what you see on the app is very similar to what you see when you log into the website. So there's, if people get used to the website and start using the app, there should be very little difference. So we're hoping that, by keeping it consistent, we should raise the usage of it. In terms of standards, I work with Customer Focus Wales, which is managers of my level across Wales, and we meet half yearly to discuss what's going on within our councils and to look at new strategies, who's doing what, any new or emerging technology. And I think what I'm finding is that they are all looking at ways to become more efficient. There are a lot of them now that are also looking at AI, artificial intelligence. When I asked, does anybody actually have a corporate charter, not just for residents, but internal, there are a lot of messages back from them saying that they are looking to do that. So it seems that they're all kind of working towards the same plan, and the standards are pretty different across each authority. So it's difficult to get consistency with the authorities across Wales, but we are all doing very similar things.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Councillor Alex Pym.
Thank you, Chair. My question is in regards to the budget. £320,000 has been mentioned in the report. Is this the total for the whole budget, and what is it exactly paying for?
I'll start and do the team will come in. So that's the total we've asked for. It's over a 2-year period of time. That essentially is going to put the resource in place to make all the improvements over that period of time that we've got, and then that money will go. It's a one-off investment. So we'll have made the improvements, and then it'll be over. So it'll pay for the project management resource. It'll pay for some additional resource into MCS to do all the additional things we need to do with the systems, make sure the integrations are working effectively. It's a small amount in there for basis to do this additional bit of work with us, an additional workshop in housing, I think, as well, run some of the systems. And you go through, they've done some really good work in Scotland and boroughs as well for that, but particularly ones emergency and temporary accommodation. So just picking some of those bits up, but it's a one-off funded over a 2-year period of time. So that's not each year, that's the total funding over that period of time, in order to make sure we make the improvements quickly, basically. That's what
Are we expected to stay within that budget, Reece? 320,000, or are you expecting maybe to borrow more?
No, we'll stay within. That is the budget. So the settlements all set, and that will be the total budget for the piece of work.
The project.
The only way to get any additional money to that, because it's an invest to transform budget, is to take a further paper back to cabinet. We don't envisage doing that, or we've got enough resource within that.
So I might have missed it in the report. How much did it cost the project
to do the first bit of
before we paid basis for this service?
Consultation.
Yeah, it's consultation.
I was going to say it was.
I look at firm. We'll confirm with it. It was around about 30,000. I think that's sufficient. It was around about. It was around about. It wasn't significant. So I know obviously every penny counts, but even with the actually on the work done inside, it was reasonable. I think.
Yeah, it came in at 38.
Yeah, Matthew Pym.
During, sorry, might be a bit confusion with my brother in the same school. In terms of the staff then at the moment, so was staff morale looked into, and how staff are coping with the systems that are in place at the moment? And obviously during, this is coming in the end of the pandemic, October, I guess the end of 2023 up into the spring of this year. How have your staff been coping with the demands and expectations of the changes, not just in uptake, but the service in general?
They've been coping well. We put lots of support in place for staff. I think the demand is that some people want things done straight away. There's possibly a lack of patience, I think, with some people that call us. And they expect, as you probably know, that the council will fix everything. That isn't always the case. I think they do get a bit disappointed that they see the same things come through all the time. And they're like,
Council said that as well.
why can't we fix this, or why can't we fix that? And it's just explaining we can only do so much. So they're really positive about this because they themselves, where they're taking the calls, answering the emails, seeing people coming in, are seeing the same kind of thing all the time. And you know, when we go to them and say, we've worked with basis, this is what we found, and we've been really open and honest with the teams in customer services and said, you know, this is what we're doing, this is what we expect, that it will reduce a lot of avoidable feedback, it will give you a bit more time back. Yeah, been really positive.
Okay, and where are all the staff based at the call centre? Are they working?
They do 2 days in the office, which is in the library.
That's on the phone, yeah.
Face to face.
Yeah,
Oh,
face to
face-to-face,
face. They do main reception here at the Civic Centre. So those are customer services staff. And then they work from home as well. So it's a bit of everything.
And in terms of staff numbers at the moment, if we're putting the budget pressures aside at the moment, have you got enough staff to cope with the demand, or do you feel that you need more staff to deliver the services? I suppose, again, budget aside, I know that we're going experiencing
Can
tough
I
times again.
join in this area if you want? But look, I think it's really important. The customer, so the bit Kerry manages, which is the customer service bit, is a bit of this jigsaw puzzle. I think if we get the systems, you can always do more stuff, right? Just saying that across every service across the organization. Because demand has increased and demand is so more complex and you require more staff to do that. The population has grown massively in the last 10 years. Actually, you know,
Also, people new to the area.
people are new to the area, and we've got it's a complex city, and you know the vast majority, as you would see when you go through the budget setting process every year, the vast majority of our resources go into education and social services, right? So there's a very small amount of money to do all of the other things in this, and they are all the things that people tend to contact the contact center. So it isn't just the staff in contact center, it's actually, if the systems behind that work efficiently, effectively, their job becomes easier because actually you're not having to deal with trying to chase around for some answers to questions, except that we should be able to just respond to. So if we fix the rest of it, their job should be easier. But I will say, to pick this up in some job basis, the things we're asking the customer services team to do, the complexity which you are really challenging. So actually more resource for, like, I know there's more training and more support from some of our more people-based services like prevention and inclusion, social services into that mix will probably make that better because people are coming in with really, really challenging complex issues.
Yeah, I think one of the things cost of living. So if somebody's ringing about council tax, you know, they might be having difficulty paying rent, or you know, buying groceries or paying bills, etc. And we can only fix so much in contact centre. But what we're looking at is to work with other areas in the council that have that information, and then we can create a more skilled, yeah, so that we can answer those queries and not just pass people off and etc. And you know, when we think about it, contact centre is a big part, but you know, we've seen emails increase, we've got blue badge, we've got parking permits, you know, so it's a number of things that we've got to undertake in customer services. So yeah, I could wave a magic wand.
But it's always nice to know.
Yeah.
What you
But
need, just in case
I think
things
what,
do improve, you know, financially, because
Yeah.
this is a frontline service, and as you've already mentioned, lots of people use it and rely on it. And you know, if one area of improvement is just having more people available on phones, or more people available to reply to emails, then things start to move more efficiently.
Yeah, but I just wanted to say, but it isn't also, it is not that simple. It's, could have that additional pickup through the phones, but if we haven't got the steps that we have behind.
Yeah.
We still not doing this one, so it's
And I think that's what we said to the staff, you know, if we can clear out this amount of work by people going online or having information up front, so they don't need to call us, etc., or to email us, it gives us that capacity to do more with the people that are ringing us that need to actually speak to us. So, yeah.
Councillor Thomas.
I mean, I think we're very mindful of the cost of losing staff. And staff could be lost through burnout or boredom or frustration. And I have to say, you know, I do not get the satisfaction out of doing the job that I did when I was first elected in 2012. And as you say, it's more complex. There's more pressure from the inquiries that we have. So, I mean, how are the staff feeling? The staff feeling that there is light, that this gives them a bit more extra light in the tunnel? You know, do they see the potential for an increase in job satisfaction?
I think so. We don't have an issue with attrition in the normal way where people get burnout or they get fed up and then they leave. They do leave, but they go internally. So they might go to housing, or they might go to council tax. You know, so that's positive, I think, for the authority, because they're getting staff that are already partially trained, that understand the council. So, you know, good for service areas. And I think because we do a lot of support with our guides, and we do the check-ins, and you know, the team managers check in with them every day to make sure they're okay, or if they've had a particularly difficult call, they can discuss it with their team manager, take that time, you know, to get themselves together, etc. If they've done anything differently, or how to deal with that kind of thing if it happens again. So we do lots of supportive measures. So, and I think, you know, every time I see the staff, they do seem quite happy and upbeat. And, you know, we do try and do once a month, we do a team day where everybody's in the office together. So we do lots of team building, etc. Because you just don't want somebody there every day taking just call after call after call. Yeah. You will get burnt out. Yeah. So you have to, you know, manage that.
And you know, I've always felt that you know, I've always had quite a lot of people contacting me by email. I've had a particular problem in the last few weeks from a very specific service area which I've never previously. I've raised this and it's being looked into, but I shouldn't be dealing with those, and that has to get sorted out. But we'll deal with that elsewhere. But do you count, you know, the emails that go to the councillors? Do you have any way of monitoring those? Do you count those as email contacts? Because I wouldn't be surprised if those were a huge number.
They are dealt with over this is one of the confusions in members reporting issues and having that feedback, because it's dealt with over 2 service areas. So the emails come in to us, and we put them onto MCS, and then they go off to Steve and Jared's team,
right?
Who then
City services.
Get the information that you need, and then they provide you with your reports and your chase ups, etc. So we don't.
You sort of do monitor.
We do the initial
when we send them into you.
Yeah,
right.
But those ones that I guess you don't send in
Yes.
wouldn't be captured.
No.
So the true figure of member
It's like
it's not
it's like
a lot higher.
Yeah.
and I guess again, you know, we only do it for city services. So if you're emailing the service area, we wouldn't see that because we don't know what process they do for you. So
I think one of the things that Basis report highlighted was the variety of different methods that members have to make contact with the council. So
we need to make it easier with more.
Well, I think possibly that's an area where we could do with training ourselves in the future, because as those, you know, there will be more ways available than used to. I mean, I'm sure we don't, you know, even I've been knocking around for quite a long time now. I'm sure I'm not aware of all of the most appropriate ways of forwarding messages or getting responses on them. You know, there are quite, you know, the things that sort of are wearing are things like, and we've obviously got a completely different process for parking permits than when I was first elected. But it's still not right. There's still real communication gaps there. And I would really like to know that if I raise those, somebody's going to give me some feedback on what the steps are being taken to address them, rather than it just going off the radar. You know,
Yeah.
really need that communication channel open.
And I think by improving your communication channel and getting some consistency in there, that should help you deal with your constituents a lot.
Yeah, who do I write to then as speaker? That's an area for concern. Parking permits.
That would be me.
Oh, okay, Sherry. You think you've added yourself in that one, sorry about that. Okay.
But yeah, that's just one of the processes that, you know, it does. In terms of resource, our end, in terms of resource, your end, where, you know, you've got residents coming to you about, it takes up a lot of time.
Oh, yes, it's endless, and it's repeated.
Yeah.
And it will be, I suspect, anybody who's got a board when there are parking permit areas will be bumped down by this on quite regular basis.
I think that it's really important to remember if what this is about, what we're trying to do, is make sure that we deliver the very best service to the residents. You are their representatives, that's what you are within.
But we're trying to do it as well.
I don't know.
We're one of them, and we're also trying to do it as well.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
you know, what we need to do is create some better systems for doing things. And I think part of what we need to do as part of the project is, I know there was a game, probably put something else to just say that if you give us some examples of some of these issues, we try to work through.
Yeah, I think that's
So actually, how do we just make
Yeah.
this better? I think we've also just managed expectations though. We've also got to get better at. There are lots of things we do where people might not like it, but they are either yes or no answers. There's a lot of stuff within this review where there's a lot of repeat business, which people don't like the yes or no answer. We've all got to get better at trying to say, well, actually, it is this or it is that. There's no other answer, and it's not just related to this, you know, because what will happen is we'll give an officer will give a response. They'll talk to the councillor, the council will get a response. They'll talk to their MS. The MS will get the same response, and MPs. We just go down that chain there. All that resource has been taken away. Something that should be reasonably simple and straightforward. So we need to be honest with it, with ourselves and with everybody about some of that stuff as well.
Yeah,
I think I've raised it at the last there's some online communications and website, and that was the issue of YouTube guides. So if you're stuck and something breaks in your house, you don't get access to the library or the user guide. Pop into YouTube, how to do this, and somebody's made 2 videos. And again, I raised it previously with how the council website works and how you go about accessing certain departments or information. I'm just wondering if we made any progress with that. It was kind of noted previously. I can't remember the gentleman who was head of the department. Mark, was it? And again, it's just something you can, for us, we can say, well, type this on YouTube, and then you'll get the basics there. And the other issue, as you know, is I think whilst we assume people are upskilled with online technology, not everybody is, and even myself trying to book in. Most people use their phone for the internet. I don't have access to my laptop. Nearly everything is on my phone. So even booking a tip appointment yesterday, I have to turn my phone to the side again, remember, because if you don't, you can't tick the box. Is whether the online information is available. I know that there's a council app, but how accessible that is and easy to use for, and again, coming back to when you pass that information on to residents, go here, try this, and that's how you do it.
just pick up on those things. So I'll pick up with Mark, because I think the conversation is about the website development, so see how we do that. So I'll pick up with Mark. Obviously, we've got a new website. It's been developed. It's not finished yet. Work in progress, but it is much easier. Interestingly, that's been designed in order to make it really easy to use it on your phone, which the old website was. However, some of what's picked up in the room, some of the forms with the MCS aren't. Now, I'm going to quote Paul Jones, director of Play Services, as he said, because he orders a lot of pizza online, he said it should be as easy as ordering pizza. And that's the kind of thing. All of that stuff needs to be much. There's one thing, say, you need people to do all of that, but actually we've got to make it as simple as we possibly can for that to happen. So that's been picked as part of this work as well. But I'll find out. I'll get an update. But we use a lot of the web, the sort of videos for doing stuff internally. So, the finance system, for instance, they run the video tutorials there. Except with each other, the video tutorial.
Yeah, but even that information shop on where you can find the information. If you start
That's a really good point.
where the library is, because people sit for a while.
Yeah.
Again, this is where you need to go. Instead of like a walk and talk guide, it's 3 minutes long.
Yeah.
Just going to go back to this one again. We know that there's an increasing number of people who have been. Some of them may have been dragged kicking and screaming towards websites and technology, but we've still got a substantial number of people who won't be, who can't, who, there may be financial constraints, particularly now, but there will be these people who can't get there. So it's been really disappointing to see messages, you cannot, the only way you can report your missed dustbin collection is online. And this seems to be excluding people who could be amongst our most vulnerable.
And
So how are we going to deal with that one?
Yeah, I think we talked about that in the last scrutiny meeting, didn't we? And
well, we would have. I'm absolutely sure we some sort of digital exclusion was mentioned.
We talked about that because we talked about digital poverty. It's still prevalent, and I think this then led on to the videos, etc. But the team in customer services, they will talk to the residents and they will try and ascertain whether they've got support from family or friends or, what kind of their situation is. And if there is nothing at all, then they will help that resident. We don't turn anybody away.
Well, I'm glad to hear it, although there's sort of principles behind making people engaged there. People with, let's say, learning with disability, we want them to develop there and live as independent as possible. A lot of resources are put into that. So it seems inappropriate to go and find a friend or go and ask your mother to do it for you. We've got to be very mindful of this. And I know that it's a question of creating a system which is flexible enough, isn't it? So that it's not.
And we do have people come into the library because we've got self-serve PCs in there, and we have shown how to do certain things. So if it's something they want to do regularly, so check their bidding for the housing, etc. Once we've shown them a couple of times, they'll just come in,
Right, okay.
and then.
So I wasn't aware of, that's something I could point, if I get that sort of inquiry, I could point them in that direction.
Yeah, there are self-serve PCs that the team down there will help people navigate through.
Years ago when I worked with people with learning disability, mental health problems, this sort of thing, there was more money that seemed to be floating around, and it was sort of badged under enabling them to keep the tenancy in those days. So it was a lot of life skills for other things as well. But I don't think those projects really exist in the same way they used to anymore. So there's fewer people there.
I think that's a really good point. Part of complexity that we have because those services are people. The balance about the online stuff is this. I know we keep saying the same thing, but if we can get everybody if we can make the app work as well as it can, so it is easy, and we can get everybody who can use it to use it. Actually, the resources we've got should be adequate to be stretching the sort of those sorts of things. But at the moment, those limited resources are also having to deal with stuff they shouldn't have to do. That's because, they are telephone calls or emails, or people can use the contact centre, because we haven't got the rest of that system. That's not blaming those individuals, because we haven't got the rest of the system.
Well, that's kind of-
Yeah, that's right.
On the nitty-gritty now, I don't know whether this is covered, I don't know whether the recommendations will cover this one, but the 56-minute waiting time. I know that was, the maximum that you monitored, but I mean, are we heading on, do we know how to prevent that sort of situation occurring again? Why
Yes.
did it occur?
I think there are a number of factors that occur. So, we only have a finite amount of resource to do everything that we do. So that's phone, face-to-face, main reception, and the admin duty. So it's a balance every day. We have a team monitoring the phone wait times every day, and moving people around. But sometimes it's almost like a perfect storm where you might have holidays, sick leave, dependency leave, or something happens. And it is looking at where do we put people, where is it most beneficial, and calls will queue, and we will get as many people on to a specific line as possible to try and get those down as quickly as possible. But sometimes, again, at capacity within the team.
So your response has to be quite dynamic. You have to always be shipping things around
Yeah.
and responses around different places.
And you're going to get busy at times of the days. That
Yeah,
most people
but I
make
mean,
these
I'm
phone
sure you
calls.
can predict those, can't you?
Yeah.
Very difficult to predict in the authority, but if I'm really honest, I look at them regularly. So, we look at calls, how they're spaced throughout the day, when is the busiest time of the day. The busiest time of the day changes throughout the week. You would think it would be quite consistent.
Yeah.
You do see probably about 11 o'clock, after people may have got up, had the breakfast, and then decide to make a call. You might see about over lunchtime where people have their lunches and they think, oh, I'll just ring the council now. Probably towards the end of the day. But anything that may happen in a service area affects that peak as well. So springtime, when you get the new bills go out, and or if you get bailiff letters go out for council tax, you start to see a huge peak.
Yeah.
But because you've only got a finite amount of resource, you can't then just say, right, we'll put everybody onto that. So it is playing around every day to try and get the maximum that we can. Efficiency.
And the 44% of people who ended the call abandonment rate. Is that 44% of people?
Yeah.
The calls, I'm not quite sure. But I mean, do you have a figure there on how long the average person's patience lasts?
Again, it varies, and you can't. It's very
Or
difficult
the
to say.
average now?
Yeah, it's very difficult to say that person has hung up because they're fed up with waiting.
Yeah, they could have something happening with the
It could be their lunch ends, or
The
somebody walks
doorbell
into the room.
rings.
Or even if they're on their mobile and they've got weak signal, the call will drop. So it's very difficult, and you also find that if the call's not answered quickly, they'll hang up, then they'll ring again. Then they'll hang up, and then they'll ring again.
So that might be higher than
it kind of makes the figure slightly, if that makes sense.
I think from my experience of maybe 656, 656, it's one of the better call centres that I've run. I mean, comparison might be utility government agency. Trying to get hold of them, and again, if you ever try to go through their chat box, it's just an endless cycle. So it's one of the best.
Yeah.
But I'm just wondering, do you currently offer it's probably a luxury, like a callback system? Because some people may not be able to, they've only got 10 minutes to make that phone call. If they can discuss the issue there and then, a callback system, or even online, that people could book in a phone call. So it might suit them for the council to ring them, say, between 4 and 6. And then you can prioritize some staff to make those callbacks. And then the person knows roughly when they're going to be able to speak to you.
Yeah, we've looked at it with our telephony providers, and we've looked at what other authorities are doing. And I guess the difficulty that we have is because we have no capacity. We are literally, from the moment that we open to the moment that we close, rammed.
Oh, no, I bet that, but I'm just thinking in terms of kind of a bit of flexibility for your staff too, because you could say to somebody, right, well, if you can cover, if you want to, you can kind of come in a bit later, and you could possibly work through till in the afternoon, and these are the callbacks that you have to kind of work through if you can. Give people so many phone calls, if they don't answer, then again move on. But in terms of again working around people's commitments and kind of workloads.
We did it for our Welsh line. We're trying to capture those Welsh speakers.
Oh,
We are changing over our telephony this year. We're going to an all Wales group with the other local authorities that are supported by SRS. So we'll all be with the same telephony provider. So we've been able to make a number of savings doing that. But by going to a new telephony provider, it'll give us more option to do more with our telephony, including, you know, when you ring up and it's like a press 1 or press 2, whatever. We've asked for a couple of add-ons, so we should hopefully be able to do more with our telephony.
yeah, and then the only other final point is going to be probably quite a bit, is whether you offer the video call option at the moment. Like, so people can speak, they feel as if they're speaking to someone directly, not necessarily in person, but again, if they
We've looked at it, trying to free up the capacity to do it. It is something that I think will be beneficial from an equality point of view, definitely. So that is on the list. Whether it happens, I'm not quite sure at the moment. I think we need to do this review and follow this project through, and then see what else we can add that adds the value.
Yeah, but you just come in, it's a really good point. So if I can go into the full details of some of the examples I came through in the review, but you know, you have people phoning up or turning out really complex issues. And it's an opportunity, it's a really complex issue, but it's also an opportunity for us to actually intervene in order to stop something worse happening. So, for instance, somebody at risk of becoming homeless, for instance, I can have some examples. If you know, we can't always guarantee those staff can be available, but actually, if you could have a video call system, with basically you just do that there and then, you could have that person with some video call. They can happen, you know, somebody from the spreadsheet through. But I think it's one of the things we just need to look at, actually, how do you make this better? But again, managing expectations, because, you know, we're not,
yes,
we have a load of resources, but I think it's probably that kind of, is there somebody in a service that should deal with this? Customer service operative can then go and do on to the next thing.
It's all about what different skills we have. You know, I've also thought about web chat as well. Only because recently I phoned my bank and 5 minutes in and still nothing from the bank. So I went online and I did a web chat, and I think it was sorted within about 5-10 minutes. You know, and it's things like, it's the technology that we could make really good use of. But I guess there's so much out there. You need to look at actually what will work for us and what won't work for us, what will make the difference, rather than just adding it all into possibly a big part and then just having this big.
Yeah, and that human factor costs a lot of money because you have to pay somebody. I mean, with technology, you can pay AI to do it, but it does make a big difference. For some people, you don't get a chance to speak to many people or find communication quite hard. Having that empathy from someone's body language and that reassurance. This is half the time we get angry from ages. And when you do speak to someone, those long pauses, where they're not really answering your question, but you can't see what kind of reaction they're giving. Like if they're genuinely interested in trying, that makes a big difference. Whilst on the phone more often than not, or even on a web chat, you're not really sure if they take on board what the problem is and really trying their best to help.
just Councillor Whittington. So that's just two things on some of the things you said again. So I think the web chat's really interesting. So I suspect in that portion of people who forget, because I do this all the time. If I phone the contact centre and I phone the people that I'm then on the website looking for the ways I can actually get to where we do. So I suspect what a chunk of those will be people who realise they can do something online. They've just we don't know. So I think getting better data on that probably. Just to pick up on the Welsh language, because Gary mentioned it, obviously we've got some statutory responsibilities to treat Welsh language no less favorably. And obviously it's a challenge to recruit and keep Welsh speaking customer services operatives. So actually we have to do things a little bit to meet those legislative requirements. So and we do have mystery shopper calls in from the commissioner on that. So it's we just need to be we need to provide the service. If you you speak Welsh, you are inside outside of that service, so we can make sure we maintain that as well.
Do we have figures on that? Do we have figures on that? How many people call in or contact the council?
Yes,
We do.
yeah, we can get you figures on that.
I'd be interested in that.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Councillor Horton.
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, you have to excuse my attire. I'm pretending to be a chef today. Whilst you were speaking a few minutes ago, you said you're from open to close, you're basically running at full capacity. So what's the plan to bring us down from running at full capacity? So we're running at about 80% instead. So there is that headway to do some of the additional work which has been suggested.
That's a good question, actually. That's the stuff that we.
I ask good questions. I ask good questions, Reece.
Yeah. I think that's the bit about making the improvements to the back office system. So when the customer service, I think we're clogged up at the moment. I think there's three things. There's people phoning us or emailing us. They might be emails. There might be electronic communication, but might as well be speaking to folks who are trying to go what they're asking. So we're tied up with people phoning and emailing. We're tied up with repeat business because something's gone wrong somewhere. Somebody hasn't updated. And we're tied up with not being involved. If you sort those three things, and I must have said, if you sort those three things, actually the customer services team will have more time to actually be able to do the service improvements, work with those people with the complex needs and issues, and actually get the call times down as well. So those are the three things we're kind of, I made it sound much simpler than it is, but the three things we're going to focus on.
So I'm assuming then there are plans and strategies which back up what you just said.
Yeah, well, the bit of this now is we're doing the sort of planning phase here. Project implementation will be next week. Next week, yeah, it is. But this week, because of October, tomorrow, isn't it? Project implementation. We've got those priority areas of work, detailed plans about each of those things, and then we just need to work out with the committee about how often we're bringing that set back there.
And
obviously within that, Councillor Horton, will be a lot of testing and measuring the impacts of those things.
I almost feel, Reece, you knew what my next question was going to be. What's the timeline we're looking for that improvement?
There will be some things we'll be able to improve reasonably quickly. There are things that are going to take longer. We've got an 18-month project that we're going to implement. If it was just the customer services team, this would be reasonably straightforward, but it isn't. It's about the organisation response to the residents' inquiries and questions. So, but we should, I think by the time we next come, we should be able to say to them, well, these are the things we've already done, the improvements we've already seen, and these are the things that come up in the next phase.
Okay. No, thank you.
Thomas?
This is a something the internal system in the council. We've got access to the directory of staff. who are in the council. And on most people's names, there is a call button. You can call them. And that's going through a team system now, isn't it? I have never once managed to speak to anybody using that. It just seems ridiculous to have that button at all if I cannot ever get through to somebody on the phone. You know, one time people had phone numbers, you could just ring their phone number. And that doesn't function for me. Or is it just me? It doesn't like you can get quite paranoid about this, you know.
Without, my response.
Yeah, go on.
So we're moving, I think, so in process of moving the teams to F&E. It's significantly cheaper than what we've got the system for it.
Right.
You've got to pay back sets and
Right.
so on. So we're moving to that. But I'd also refer you to within that question to the officer member code of conduct about should be contacted.
Yeah.
But
I'm always terribly appropriate, Reece, you know that.
I'm sure you are. It's better than for everybody else.
Right.
So without being generally, directed centre service, you should need to contact them, and if they can't really be asked to member of staff to engage, carry on with that.
Doesn't work for anybody though.
Well, it might be.
It might be my system because I do have problems with Teams.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you should just be able to put, with internal people, you should just be able to put their email address in and call them on video or internal. You shouldn't have any other issue. If you start typing a name, if they're a member of staff, then
Oh, I see, yeah.
And then answer them.
but that is a different. That is it, and that's part of what we need to try and pick up.
Mm.
Just wondering if there was a breakdown of the subject matters for what people are tuning in for. You get a chance to kind of collate that information. So what are your more popular, not
We can
complaints, but
do our top
requests?
10. Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say waste
Mm.
is up there. Social services is up there.
Because you said you didn't deal with social services issues.
We didn't include that in the review.
Right.
Because there's almost a separate kind of system for
Yes,
reform
yeah.
of social service. Because we didn't want to make this complicated.
Right.
Obviously, they've got statutory processes in place.
Yeah.
So we didn't want to complicate this bit, which was fine.
Right. But you're monitoring it.
Yeah, we always look at our kind of like top 10, and they may change position, but they usually stay in the top 10 recycling required. They're all up there.
So we've done like a benchmark of callback requests for the first from June until August, looking at the volumes of callback requests received. So as we progress through the project, we'll monitor those to see how those levels hopefully come down as a result of the changes that we put in place.
But and also just to say, it's the social services bit, but social services are represented on the project. They will do less, and they will have things.
Yeah, and I think a lot of residents still don't understand that different services are provided externally. So waste saves being one. So it's interesting to see where waste is, because especially the changes with the 3 weekly bin collections.
Yeah.
And again, I would imagine you get an awful lot of phone calls or emails about recycling that you have to redirect. How do you find with not external, but the other services? So Norse, Newport Live, Waste Savers. Do you find it difficult getting hold of those pass on kind of complaints or requests? Have you got any direct contact with them that you can just
I would say
in
that
call centre capacity?
in Newport Live, we don't have any interaction with. They just manage their own service. Waste Savers, yes, we've got a really good relationship with Waste Savers. And we do a lot of feedback to them as well about, the types of things that we're getting. But recycling is a popular thing, yeah. And again, that goes back to peaks. So when they decide about 3 weekly bin collections, you'll get a peak.
Yeah.
Why is it 3 weekly? What do I do with X, Y, and Z, and so on and so forth? But again, that dies down.
Just to add, NCS My Council Services is utilised by waste savers, so queries that come in are logged on MCS and land straight with waste savers to collect any complaints or service requests.
Yeah.
So is there going to be, when the website, do you know roughly when the website would be the new one? In terms of,
I can get it.
but I was just wondering whether there's going to be like a launch of that, maybe not a rebranding of the My Council Services, but maybe like a Newport Map, there's a separate guide that's within there on how you, that idiot's guide, that basic guide on how to use it.
Yeah, I think there's two bits though, isn't it? There's the website, which obviously the look and interface of that has been improved massively, so it's a lot better. There's still a chunk of work to do with that. I think Council Services is a separate system that integrates with that. It also with a range of back office systems as well, to varying degrees. So I think it's all of them. Oh, that's good. So we have to do a lot of work. So I think the website, I'll find out where we are with the website. That's going to come to 11 complete, but whether it's going to be actually happy, we just think continuous improvement to find out. And My Council Services, we're going to pick up part of this project, so some of the resources specifically to look at how that works, and what it makes it actually how. Yeah, because I also that increase in back office services look up into, because if we've got that, it's just so much easier for to actually understand where they are with some of this. They've got a service request, but they know exactly what they want.
Any other questions from the committee? Or could I ask
No,
I just
Chair.
want to say,
Yeah, no. So, couple of things, sort of observations, comments, if you like. So for me, sort of service is everybody's responsibility, and we've just got a customer service guys here, if that's right, the customer service team representatives, but we've evidently probably got some issues across service areas which don't go through and interact with the customer service team. So how do we deal with that is kind of the first thing really. How do we make sure everybody knows that kind of customer service and the expectation of delivering to customers? Because I don't necessarily, from my own personal experience of dealing with the council, both as a a resident and a board member, I don't necessarily see all the problems in the customer service team and the kind of the implications of the conversation today is like all the problems is in your team, and I don't think that's the case. And certainly the report doesn't suggest that's the case. So how do we sort of change the culture around customer service is the key bit. And on top of that is there is probably a cultural issue there in terms of how we sort of deal and respond to customers and feedback, and sort of the technology probably doesn't help. So the steering board hasn't got anybody from sort of HR and people in that. And I would have thought that there's a lot, apart from yourself, at sort of top, but operational level, I sort of wonder whether that steering group, because there seems to be a lot of people issues that, and this is all change management, which I'd expect sort of HR to be supporting and leading on in terms of the way that you deal with significant change across the council, if you like.
Yeah, no, good question. So I think the first bit, this is absolutely, the improvements we need to see are absolutely not all focused on customer services. Customer services is 22 staff out of 2,000 non-school staff, right? So it is an organisational wide thing. I think that's why I struggle with it kind of when we all be done. Well, yeah, actually you've got to, and part of the reason for the charter is about saying an agreement across the organisation. This is what customer services means to us. It isn't about this team that's it's about every single member of staff we employ is employed to deliver services to the residents, and important, just making sure that it's front and centre in their heads when they're actually working. So I would say the vast majority of the time it is. We don't always get it right, and we don't always communicate that particularly well. So it's about improving that. So that's the kind of bit. the role of corporate management team is critically important. As the chief executive been really clear, this isn't Myron as the head of service responsible for customer service issue, or even a my issue, because it's in corporate directive. It is our organisational piece of work that we've got to drive forward, and she's really keen that every head of service is absolutely engaged and involved in that. So I think that's really important as well. I think obviously we've got a board structure and we've got a team structure kind of with everybody from people, HR, so Tracy or Kevin essentially.
Kevin's liaised closely with.
Yeah, I've spoken to Kevin and given him an update on the project, and I talked to him about the corporate charter. So we're trying to introduce standards across the organisation, and he was happy with it because I said, you know, do we need to create it as a policy? Do we need to run it by anybody that we've not thought of? And he was quite happy with the way that we were going to roll it out. He didn't see any issues. But we've said, you know, depending on which service areas we go into, you know, we may pull in somebody from HR and policy. I think as we go into the different service areas, the makeup of the project team will change based on that service area. So I think we probably won't start out with Kevin. But, you know, we may bring him in depending on what our findings are. You know, he suggested we have somebody from the qualities in, which is a good one, but again, not in every project team. So, yeah.
So I think just if it's a recommendation of the committee, we'll have a look at it, see if something will be on the board, right? So that's it. I think we've got it covered, but if that's what.
Okay, that's best. In terms of the sort of numbers that were put up on the table you showed, which is in the papers as well. So I guess we don't know how many of those are calls from the same thing, do we? So we got 1,000 phone calls. We don't know whether that's somebody report the same issue 10 times or once.
There's no way of telling that via telephony at all. And you know, that's why I said there may be some inflation in that figure, because they've rung, they've held on for 5 minutes, something's happened, they put the phone down and they've rung later in the day.
Yeah. One of the issues that sort of arises for me with, for example, somebody reported sort of flooding highway the other day, and I always say, have you got any reference numbers so I can, because it's been reported and I don't want to investigate it, but they've got like 5 or 6 reference numbers. So the system, so every time they phone up a report, the system gives them a new reference number. It's difficult to track the progress on the other one then. So then somebody else picks up a new one, somebody else deals with it, does real something. So there's got to be a load of sort of resource and failure in that. So the easiest way would be to reopen the ticket or whatever you can do. That's what you'd like to do, is sort of click to say, I'm not happy with that response, can I reopen it? And I kind of get that a little bit when I report stuff through my report. I get a response back and it's closed, and then I have to either raise an email. I can't go back into it and say, I'm not happy with that, well, that's wrong. So that, I think that would sort of help almost open a dialogue, a conversation about an issue when you've got to get something back.
Yeah, look, I absolutely sure. So we found a little series of things. So even where the system is, our system works and it's in place, some of the responses are not great, because you might not accept the fact that the call was closed. We've said it, right? So you are right, and we generate additional stuff in the system. So those are things we're going to pick up through.
Yeah, that's all recognized. Yeah. It was one other thing I wanted to pick up really, and it's sort of tied into the points around sort of timescales. You got the action plan there. It would be, I presume there's probably more detail under that, which the teams are going away with probably more high level the objectives of an action plan.
There will be really detailed action plans on each of those pieces of work. Yeah. Obviously, we brought this year today to say, well, we're at the point of starting comments on it and additions, and then project board will start project activities will then commence. So it's saying I suppose once we've got those, rather than waiting, it's up to you to determine how often you want us to come back. But sure, once we've got those action plans, we can put those as a paper response into the committee. We can talk about it in the next time we come.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say really. The follow-up question was, how do we report? Because those are very high level measures. How do we
Yeah,
report a bit of detail? So I think that's a fair point. Break it down
Yeah.
similar to the sort of service area action
Yeah.
plans with the sort of high levels of progress. And
Yeah.
you can even sort of green and red them then in terms of, similar to the way that they get for the engineer and then biannual report. So
Yeah.
that probably seems less sensible thing to do if the committee's happy with that approach. And then it's just how regular we want that reported back to us, and whether we just want a written report or whether we want to bring an item to the agenda which is reported to us face to face. Really, my gut would be that we sort of invite you in to sort of give us an update on it. But I just wanted everybody else's take on it. Really, everybody happy with that approach?
Yeah.
Yeah. We can just include that on the 4-week program, then can't we, sort of for 6 monthly updates, and then I guess we'll get to a point where we just don't need them anymore because the things will sort of get them. Yeah.
So we're planning an 18-month piece of work here, so you can have 2 6-monthly updates and so stuff.
Yeah, fab. Okay. Yeah.
And obviously, if there's things in the meantime, then we can always have a conversation about bringing in additional stuff we want to by committee approaches. We can
Yeah.
do that in between those points.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Anybody else got any other questions sort of arising from that, or anything else?
I put the tip point. 345. Really undercooked it. So I thought that's 2 my questions.
Okay. I think that's it then for officers for the agenda item.
Yeah, which we help with what I've got and then
Yeah.
we'll go on there.
Perfect.
So if I go through first the request for information, which
Yeah.
was the figures on contacts from Kevin Thomas, breakdown top 10 most popular contacts from him, and an update on the website program please for Debris. And the recommendations I've captured are recommend using video guides where it would be helpful for residents. Exploring alternate methods of contacting features such as video calls and callback systems, and a recommendation of breaking down actions similar to service area reporting to measure performance.
Yeah.
And obviously the recommendation of 6 monthly updates in committee meetings. So I've mixed anything.
But it was the one the chair raised around somebody from HR people-based services on.
Yeah. Steering the project. People happy with that?
And the only other thing that I've got to mention is just with staff feedback and staff morale is again, I was going to raise it as a question is be some counselling but honest feedback sessions for them to be able to report back what are the certain months or certain times of the year, what are reoccurring issues and problems, just so the next year they're kind of not necessarily staff, but the resources in place to deal what to expect from maybe season to season, month to month. Like it could be that last October we were inundated with issues like this. Has anything improved or changed? Again, I know it comes back to customer service, but are we prepared now for what to expect with each month of the season as it passes?
I think it was it's almost captured in the recommendation number 2 really is customer service to lead on improving customer experience and to have the authority make decisions because they know.
Yeah.
They sit there, as you talked about earlier, and get frustrated. The same thing comes in all the time. Probably know what the solution is to it, but so it's really getting their feedback and understanding of these are the frustrated bits. And there's probably some really quick wins in there.
I think one of the ones that we know about, for example, education at the end of every summer, you get parents panicking about school transport or uniforms or whatever. And I think there were some recommendations that Basis already made following a workshop with education. But I think what we're hoping to achieve is by understanding why they're contacting us, what can we do that's different, that they don't need to come through. It will hopefully level off those peaks and then, all staff will have been consistent across the year rather than up and down.
What can the schools be doing in the community to sort of negate some of that contact? They're not available as much in the 6 weeks, but preempting and being proactive might get some of that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's linking into some of the other things we do.
Yeah.
So if we know we're going to get 200 calls about this thing, why don't we do something? Why don't we tell people about it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think, there's some stuff like that, but just getting, using the organisational intelligence better.
Yeah.
Some of this stuff as well.
I've noted those two, the recommendation for a HR representative on the project board and a feedback session to staff as the project progresses.
Yeah,
Lovely.
yeah, fantastic. Thanks everyone. Appreciate your time. It's really useful and a really good presentation. So thank you.
I was very impressed, Kerry, I'm sorry, no, Friday, how you sat through that without your coat on.
Stanfield call for you.
Right, like a few years, isn't it?
Thanks all. See you soon. Bye. Cheers. Thank you. Okay, so scrutiny advisor reports, actions arising and forward from all of you.
Yeah, brilliant. If we look at the actions in the action sheet, there's still a few outstanding actions. I know we asked Chase of those, we set them off before we went on holiday. And then with the forward work programme, you'll notice that the next meeting is 14th of October for the placemaking plan, but we've got dates to be confirmed for the highway asset management plan, the LDP development plan, deposit plan, and the rapid rehousing transition plan.
Sorry, Sam, what was that before October?
14th of October is the latest, it's our next meeting. I'll double check it and make sure you've got the appointment today.
Is that, what time is that?
2 p.m. as usual.
I didn't know that.
Usually, in mind,
Because it's only until recently I was still being involved in.
Yeah, people. I'll double check it. I'll make sure you fully appointment.
Yeah. So just on the placemaking plan, I did meet with Tracy. I was getting two Tracy's, we said Tracy Brooks. Probably about a month ago now, and just sort of asked what the intention was of the committee, really, in terms of where we're at with the placemaking plan. And now that the all-member sort of group has been formed to look at some of that, I wonder whether it should go through that cross-party group before it comes here. I want people's thoughts on that before I have a conversation with Tracy. I'm not 100%. I personally would rather scrutinise the sort of finished thing rather than sort of do it at the same time as the working group and then the working group perhaps make a load of changes.
Yeah, it's not going to be finished by then, is it, by any means? It's, they haven't even announced the findings from the consultation yet.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably quite a good thought, Chair.
To do it to look at it after.
Yeah, afterwards.
After the cross-party.
Yeah, establish where we are with it. There has been, my mum cross-party group, there is a date, I can't remember when it is.
They met last Friday.
Yeah, I know, I was there.
They
said there was another.
Oh, you're on it anyway.
Yeah, I'm on it, yeah. But I mean, there's the main group and then there's the task and finish groups. There's the steering group and the task and finish. So I can't remember when the next steering group meeting is. Was that the one that you had a date for?
I thought it was next Friday, but I could be wrong on that. I only had an update from Alan.
When is the 11th?
Next Friday.
Next Friday.
Right, well, something is happening. I think there's going to be some sort of announcement on.
So I'll go back to Tracy and see whether it still needs to come here. So maybe that meeting doesn't go ahead. If is everybody else sort of shared mine and Kate's view that we should sort of scrutinise that after it's gone through all the other
processes? It when there's something to scrutinise.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we won't get the information that the answers to the questions are proposing because we have to wait another week till all is revealed.
Anybody else sort of disagree with that approach online?
No, that's fine, Chair.
No, Chair.
Okay, I'll try and have a chat with Tracy and then I'll update everybody by email as to sort of whether it's going to go ahead or not. Yes.
Argus.
Yes, report. Sorry, go on.
It's just the minutes then, Chair, if you're happy with.
Yeah, happy with all that. The forward work programme's all there for everyone to see, and we just talked about that. So, I mean, potentially, if we don't do the placemaking plan next time, we could do the highway asset management plan, but that might not be ready. But yeah, okay. So I'll keep everybody updated by email. You'll see that all the dates have changed on the forward work programme as well, all dates as well as dates, because assuming the civic centre closure still goes ahead on Monday and Friday, we won't be able to meet on Monday. So
They are just draft for now.
they've drafted, so they've been moved if that goes ahead. Okay. Yeah, that's it then. Just a minute. So the last queries on the minutes. Everybody happy to approve them as a true record?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Perfect.
agree, Chair.
That's it, I think. Marvellous. Thanks all. Get to the tip. We've got 5 minutes. They normally let you in if you're a bit late anyway.